Member for Serpentine-Jarrahdale.
Mr Speaker, it's both an honour and a privilege that I rise in the chamber to speak as the first member of Serpentine-Jarrahdale. As I've heard from members more relate to being the first fisherman in the House, I too would like to take claim as the first baker in this House. The seat of Serpentine-Jarrahdale was formed after redistribution of the boundaries of Roleystone and the Southern River. The 2003 redistribution created a very diverse electorate. The seat extends from the rapid growing urban areas of Canning Vale and Atwell in the north, across to the fruit orchards along Brookton Highway near Roleystone in the east. South of Brookton Highway, the electorate includes the Canning, Wollongong and Serpentine dams, and the tall timber country and the former bauxite resort of Jarrahdale. On the southwest highway, the growing town of Byford spills through the rolling pastures to the equine studs of Munijong and Serpentine. These areas also have a diverse range of farming, from chicken, dairies and marron farming. The electorate then heads to the west to the rural areas of Baldivis and Wellard. In short, this seat covers 1,359 square kilometres, an area encompassing all or part of 28 suburbs and 7 local governments. The people of Serpentine-Jarrahdale are diverse as the landscape. The inner city style and various housing estates in and around the Canning Vale and Atwell, and their close proximity to the Kwinana Freeway and Perth, have attracted many young families. I recall some years ago that Canning Vale was little more than a handful of commercial units scattered alongside a rickety limestone edge track that was Ramford Road, and Atwell was just a beautiful wetland. But today, both Canning Vale and Atwell are vibrant urban villages with the landscape housing estates, and both will continue to grow rapidly in my first term of Parliament. Many young families in this area have bought their first home and are sensitive to interest rate changes and taxation fluctuations. They want a vision of a fair-minded government with one eye on industry and the other on the environment. Whilst orange fruit orchards still dominate the landscape in and around Roleystone, there is a growing number of young professionals setting into the quiet lifestyle on the large wooden blocks. Although the population of Roleystone is certainly on the rise, it maintains its character and charm as an old-fashioned country town. And I learnt from my door knock in this area that's exactly how they like it. Many of the people I've met in Roleystone are passionate about the environment and social justice issues and demand accountability from the government. Through to the Darling Scarp and the heritage town of Jarrahdale, the people begin to reflect the quietness and peaceful of the area. Jarrahdale has a long history dating back to 1830s, when Sanderford was discovered and harvested for then thriving trade with Asia. The harvest took place between the track to King George Sound and Bunbury Road, and as time passed, more and more traders trod these tracks. The Albany Highway and South West Highway became and remain critical to the development of the region. After Governor Well decided to stimulate an establishment of a timber industry in the late 1860s, the Ballarat Timber Company was granted a land lease over the area and the population began to grow quickly. In 1872, the first timber mill was erected in Jarrahdale on the banks of Gurlong Creek, and a 38-kilometre wooden railway to Rockingham was constructed. This provoked the creation of an 80-metre long deep sea jetty on the coast, and shortly thereafter the first load of Jarrahdale timber was bound for Melbourne on a ship called the Northern Star. Jarrahdale became a powerhouse of employment and a leader in the timber industry. In the late 1890s, Jarrahdale had the state's 4th largest population after Bunbury, Perth and Kalgoorlie. After the Fremantle Harbour Trust denied a request for a deepening of the channel at Mungles Bay, it was decided that shipment via the rail route to Rockingham would be scaled down, and Bunbury would become the state's major port for export of timber. Consequently, Jarrahdale Junction, which is one on the route from Perth to Bunbury, became an important consolidation and distribution point for Jarrahdale timber, and the town of Munijong was born. Early in the mid-1900s, Jarrahdale timber industry and the strong people that forged it survived many disasters, as floods, major fires and a Great Depression, and the death at war of many of them town's men. Jarrahdale was strong. However, new technology created cheaper and stronger and more flexible building products. It became clear that a decreased demand for timber would eventually see the demise of the industry. As recently appointed the opposition spokesman for Forest, I take great pride in living in my electorate of Serpentine-Jarrahdale. The growth and development of the southern end of my electorate owes a great deal of its current prosperity to the successful management of the forestry. And that is why I'll be working hard to ensure that the Jarrahdale Heritage Park comes to fruition as a momentum to the forefathers of Jarrahdale and to bring to life an industry back to the community of Jarrahdale. Some will undoubtedly disagree, and I'm more than willing to accept their dissent, for that is politics. However, I'm acutely aware that within the mayhem and the noise of debate among the polarising opponents, every solution requires at least one participant to compromise. While I remain a strong supporter of the industry, I'm also personally committed to sustainable living. I believe that a natural resource can be maximised and returned to society and the minimum cost to our environment. Government should be encouraged to develop, but also ensure with a strong hand that we only take what we need and we remain ever mindful that our earth and its beauty is fragile and unique. In the 1960s, the WA government granted a bauxite mine lease in the Darlingscape near Jarrahdale, and with the construction of the Kwinana aluminium refinery beginning in 1964, the area became a new home for many young men and families who arrived in search of work and a relaxing country lifestyle. Many of these families settled along the southwest highway in the town of Byford. Byford was ideally placed, conveniently located between Jarrahdale and Kwinana, and only a short distance drive to relatively large services and facilities in Armidale and Rockingham. For decades, it has been a favourite fuel and snack stop for travellers heading south along Southwest Highway for the holidays. But things are changing in Byford. A new shopping centre has been built, housing several restaurants and new shop, and the first ever bank in the Shire of Serpentine-Jarrahdale. And I have the privilege of being the founding chairman of the company that, after 3 very long hard years of hard slog, and formally and opened in January this year, the first ever bank in Byford. The Community Bank project was only made possible through a hard work of a handful of committed locals who shared my vision and faultless donation of their time and energy. Congratulate to each one of them. Another major project for our Shire is the establishment of our first high school in the district. I was on the committee that was successfully in lobbying for an establishment of a local high school, and now the board has been formed and the Serpentine-Jarrahdale Grammar School will be opening its doors for a minimum of 64 Year 8 students in 2006. This is an amazing achievement considering the obstacles that will have to be overcome in order for our high school to be approved. Due in part to these 2 major projects, the township not only of Byford but also of Mundijong, Serpentine and Jarrahdale are now in the throes of rapid expansion. Currently, major subdivisions in and around Byford are promising to sustainably increase the population over the next 5 to 10 years. Many of the subdivisions will make available for the first time small apartment-style blocks unfamiliar to many of the long-term residents of the town. There is a whole generation of people in Byford who literally built the town with their own hands and are waiting on the edge of their seats for the imminent changes that are about to occur and the effect it will have on their community. As Byford's local baker for the past 14 years, I have witnessed great changes in the town. And as a member for Serpentine-Jarrahdale, I hold great hopes for the future of its people. And as a Shire Councillor, I consider development applications and have always been conscious of the fine balance between progress, heritage and the environment. And as a member of Serpentine-Jarrahdale, I will endeavour to maintain that balance. In the years leading up to the election, I spent many months travelling around the electorate, mostly on foot and speaking with as many residents and interest groups as possible, such as the Atwell Progress Association, the Canning Vale College P&C and the Wandie Progress Association, and a fantastic group of people that I met in Rollystone on the eve of the election who met to discuss the danger of the bushfire at Araluen. All these people that I met along the way were hard-working, honest people who only want the best for their family and the local communities, as I'm sure everyone here in this room does. Their issues were the things that affected them directly. As the second largest metropolitan electorate, the Serpentine-Jarrahdale currently only has 1 police station, 1 government high school, 3 prisons, 1 juvenile detention centre and no hospital. Not sure what this says about the Serpentine-Jarrahdale electorate, but considering its size, it shows there is a severe lack of fundamental infrastructure in my electorate. The lack of police in the area and the quality of the children's school buildings and the availability of education facilities, plus state of our local roads was foremost in people's mind, but the main issue that affected the majority of my electorate was a number of power cuts and blackouts that people had to endure as a constant part of their life. These are all issues that affect people on a day-to-day basis, and they are things that in this day and age people should be able to take for granted, but as we all know, they can't. Of course, there's a long list of those I should thank for my opportunity to stand here before you today to share my vision for the future, but only for my electorate, but for the fine state of Western Australia. As everyone knows, when you go into a campaign, it takes a lot of commitment. And for that commitment for me to happen, I'd first like to thank my wife Kim and my daughters Sian and Casey and our host daughter Lexi. I thank you for believing in me and supporting me. I'd also like to acknowledge my father-in-law and mother-in-law, Mike and Val Moore, for their help and support. To the electorate of the fantastic, diverse and sometimes surprising seat of Serpentine Jardel, thank you for your faith and especially for your vote. As your member of the Parliament, I'll always do my very best to represent your interests and promote your endeavour. I'd also like to thank Paul Everingham and the team at Menzies House, Don Randall, Ben Franklin and his band of bright young folk, Helen Morton, Donna Taylor, and a small yet dedicated group of local branch members, family and friends that worked so tirelessly and passionately on my campaign. I thank you most sincerely. You knew what needed to be done and you did it in a way that only deserves credit. Without you, I would not be standing here today. And to all my many friends and supporters who have travelled with me on this wonderful journey, you shared your time, your energy and valuable insight for years, and for this I thank you deeply. I'm extremely proud to stand here today and represent not only my electorate but also a member of the Simpson family who have supported me not only through my campaign but in my life. In conclusion, Mr Speaker, I joined this Parliament with real life experience. I was not born with a silver spoon, let alone one in my mouth. I'm a real person, I'm a baker, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I thank you for the time in the House today and hope my contribution over the next 4 years will be towards a more prosperous and safer WA. Thank you.